Alternate picking is one of those techniques that you just can't live without it. No matter how much you try to avoid it, if you're a guitar player, sooner or later, there's gonna come a time where you absolutely have no other choice but to use it. It's also one of those techniques that we rush through. Like we learn it in the beginning and then we just kind of, we don't really clean it up or refine it. We just kind of like, okay, alternate picking, up, down, up, down, up, down, got it. And then we just go. Of course, I say we, I'm really talking about myself. This is exactly what my approach was when I first learned how to do it. I was like, okay, I get it now, it's cool. But you know, I was dealing with lots of just sloppy picking problems over the years because I didn't actually sit and really refine it and think about what the actual movements are. So we're gonna take a look at alternate picking under the microscope and really see how we can clean it up and refine it so it can serve us more than work against us. Now, obviously, alternate picking, we are alternating between two movements, right? Downstroke, upstroke. That's essentially what it is. Whenever you're doing any given thing on the guitar that involves an up, down, up, down, up, down in succession kind of motion, that's what alternate picking is. But there's much more to it than that. We actually want to examine a couple things. How we hold the pick, how hard we grip it. All these little things will actually come in handy when it comes down to how clean and how precise we are with our alternate picking. So take, for example, something like just alternate picking across all 6 strings, okay? It's actually a lot harder than it sounds. If you were to mute your strings right here, so we're not gonna worry too much about actually playing anything with our fretting hand. We're just gonna mute the strings just to keep them nice and dead for us so we can actually just walk through alternate picking up and down the strings. When you're doing one string at a time, there's a lot of movement going on, right? Because you have to start from one place and end up in another. So let's talk about how we're actually gonna be holding the pick. So whenever it comes down to alternate picking, we're not necessarily having the pick just like straight on, like perpendicular with the string. We're like the tip of the pick is perpendicular to the string. We're actually gonna attack it from an angle here. So if you can see from this angle right here, how I hold my pick, rather than just, having it just on the top of the string like that, we're gonna angle it like that. So we're coming at it from an angle as opposed to like this. So it's more like this. And this is more or less the position that you wanna be in. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is slightly loosen the grip of your pick, which might sound scary because you might be thinking it's gonna fall to the ground, right? Or just slip right out of your fingers. And if it does, that's okay. Pick it right back up or grab another one from your pocket and try again. And you want to find this right amount of grip, okay? Might take some time, might take more than one try. But you got to find that because the looser the grip of your pick while still keeping it, where it needs to be, it's actually going to be really helpful for you, especially when it comes to dealing with the resistance of the pick hitting the strings. So for example, if you were to grip it hard and pick the strings, right? It actually is more likely to get stuck on the string or hindered. But if we loosen the grip, it just kind of glides over it, right? And that's really important because with alternate picking, we're dealing with kind of a rapid movement, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up. Not as fast as like full-on tremolo picking, which we'll get into in another video, but just for alternate picking in general, right? Even if it's that slow, we still got to keep in mind, right, that there's going to be resistance, right? The string's going to get in the way of the pick. So if we have it at this angle, and if we loosen the grip of our pick just enough, and we're doing this nice, like kind of even swaying motion with our wrist here, we're going to just alternate pick, going down a string, and then up a string, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So if you're ever in a situation where you're arpeggiating, let's say a full 6-string chord, you want every single note to be distinct and even, right? You don't want it to be like, where you're like hitting the same string more than once. That happened to me so much, it drove me nuts. But it's because I would just blow past the refinement of this technique, right? be young and naive again, you know? So it wasn't nearly as clean where I was just like stumbling on, I was like tripping over the strings and stuff. So this is where you really want to take the time. That's why it's an exercise, right? You take the time to just with every upstroke and every downstroke, you want it to be even and consistent, right? So I have a relatively loose grip on the pick, and I'm approaching it from this angle here, right? Not going like this. You know, just doing that just feels so unnatural to me. And I feel like you get a much better, more comfortable range of motion when you do it from this angle, right? And so obviously you want to start it slow and try and get every little string you're hearing, like I said, even and nice. You can even do like a full chord, let's say like an E chord. We're about to go into like a 50s ballad, you know. So you want to be able to do that and just as long as you want without tripping over the strings or like playing the same string twice. You want it to be nice and even, right? And separate. And that's your first exercise, okay? But that's obviously not the only way that we use alternate picking. If we're dealing with alternate picking the same string, obviously that's another one. So another exercise that you can do, mute your strings again, and we're gonna do something called double picking. So we're just gonna pick each string twice. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Now, you wanna make sure that you're still evenly going through all 6 strings, but you're still keeping that alternate picking motion, right? We're not tripping up by having like 2 upstrokes in a row or 2 downstrokes in a row. It's just constantly up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? Even when because you're dealing with even numbers, right? You're going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And so it's important, like I said, to mute your strings because you don't have to worry so much about string noise. You know, you don't want to have to stress out about that. We're strictly focusing on what our picking hand is doing. And it might actually be a little bit easier to do the double picking thing than doing the single picking. Because with the single picking, it's like you got to pick the string and then immediately move on to the next string. So you get a little bit more time when you're dealing with double picking. But that's not all. We got 2 more exercises actually. The next one is triplets, right? So we're gonna do 3, 1, 2, 3, and then move on to the next one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Here's where it's a little different though. We're gonna actually go. It's gonna be a little bit weird because we're gonna be actually starting on each, on the next string with an upstroke. Because we're going down, up, down. Then if we're gonna continue alternating, we gotta have an upstroke, right? So it's gonna be down, up, down on the low E string, and then up, down, up on the A string, and then down, up, down on the D string, up, down, up on G, down, up, down on B, up, down, up on high E, right? That's where it's gonna be. You wanna really think about your moves, right? And you know, when we get into like economy picking and stuff, we'll talk about how we can do 2 downstrokes in a row to help us, you know, kind of more navigate going down and up the strings in a different way. But for all intents and purposes, we're trying to stick to alternate picking. So I'm even fighting my natural inclination to economy pick, especially with the triplet picking. But trying to stay focused on down, up, 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 down, right? And just keeping that just alternate motion. That's all we're doing. It's weird when we're dealing with an odd number like 3 for a triplet, but that's why you got to think of it this way. It's almost like we're taking pairs of strings at a time to do this full circular pattern, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up. And then we start on the next string after those 2 with a downstroke. It kind of like starts over again. So with that one, just got to really think about it. And then that's the triplet part. It actually gets easier when we do the final exercise, which is quadruplets. So we're back to even numbers, doing 4. So with each string, you're gonna pick 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. But then you're gonna end it on an upstroke. So you're gonna be ready to do a downstroke once you go to the next string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like we're just subdividing, right, by using these different amounts of times that we pick each string. So when you're practicing this, start with the single strokes, right? Right, and then do the double picking. Then the triplets. And then the quadruplets. Now, if you're practicing this to a metronome, you can do one of those things where you have the click going, right? And it's like those viral videos you'll see of like a drummer doing different rudiments to just that static click. It's kind of a similar idea with this exercise. So once you start getting good and comfortable with it, it can get fun where you have that click going, and obviously you want to start slow, do a slower BPM to begin with, and then really focus on doing the single note strokes, the double picking, the triple picking, and the quadruplet picking. As long as you can accomplish all 4 of those exercises on whatever BPM that you're starting with, then you can move up in increments of 5. Like I've said before, that's kind of the rule that I follow, is just like bump it up 5 beats per minute every time you get comfortable with a certain tempo. And here's something additional you could do that involves that spider walk exercise, right? Because with spider walk, we're already doing alternate picking, right? We're doing actually quadruplet picking because we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So what you can do instead is double pick. And essentially double the amount of times that you're picking the notes. And then you could triplet pick, triplet, 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 triplet. Just remember to keep that angle and that relatively loose grip of your pick. Think of it as just like slightly looser than you normally do. That should be enough to help you out. And you'll notice a difference. If you were to actually like grip it tight and do the same thing, you'll trip up a little more and your pick will get stuck against the strings. Like all kinds of things will go wrong physically. Whereas if you were to loosen the grip, you actually will allow things to be a lot more smooth. So now if we're doing quadruplet picking, you can do each individual note 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And once we get into the tremolo picking stuff, it's especially important that you have a nice loose grip of the pick. So you can take the spider walk exercise and apply those the same exercise that we just went over, this time starting with single picking on each individual note, then double picking, triple picking, and then quadruplet picking.